Hey y'all, question to start. Are there any of you watching who would say that there are things that you know God is telling you, either through maybe your parents or leaders in your lives, or maybe God is speaking directly to you, and he's saying stuff like you need to change certain things. You're just finding it hard to trust and believe that if you change these things, that would actually be for your good. You hear stuff like, you might need to stop hanging around certain friends. Or maybe you're also hearing stuff like, you need to stop listening to certain types of music, or playing certain video games. Or maybe the way you treat certain people is not the way that you should. And you hear these things and you're like, I just don't think I can make these changes. And the reason why you don't think that you can make these changes is because you don't actually think that these things or these changes would ultimately be for your good. Now, here's the thing. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy for us just to trust God and believe that it's going to be okay. But we've just got to have faith and trust that God has got our back. Now, does that mean that we're not going to have tough moments as we listen to Him? No, what I'm saying is that sometimes we will be absolutely humiliated by the things that we do and the choices that we make. But in the long run, doing these things, God will end up turning things around for our good. As a kid, I can remember having difficulty trusting people myself. I can remember people telling me things that they would say was for my good, but as a kid, I just didn't seeing it to be the case. I can remember specifically my dad. He was one who would push me harder than anybody else. And on multiple occasions, there were times where he was maybe thinking that I was getting a little bit cocky, or that there was times where I just thought that I was better than certain people at certain things. And quite frankly, I was. But even though I was better than other people at certain things, what my dad was trying to teach me, what he was trying to instill in me, was this idea of having humility. But I thought that if I didn't remain confident or take the authority in certain things, that it would put me in a bad position. And that if I didn't just kind of take control in certain situations, that it ultimately would not be for my good. I honestly just didn't have faith that what he was teaching me was for my good. As an example, there was this one time where I was playing on this basketball team. And my dad happened to be the team's coach. And I thought I was the best on our team, and maybe I was. And because I thought that way, I just thought that everything should go through me in order for us to be successful as a team. And so what I meant by that was I would try to do all the scoring. I didn't pass the ball much, I passed the ball much, at least the way I should have. And I didn't get my teammates involved. And my dad got absolutely frustrated because he wanted me to humble myself and be a team player. But at the time, I didn't have faith that if I became a team player, that our team would be more successful. And so finally, during this one game, my dad had had enough. And he took me out of the game early in the third quarter. I'll never forget it. And I can remember as I was being subbed off, I couldn't believe that he was subbing me off. I remember thinking, how can he possibly be subbing me off? And remember saying stuff like, I guess he doesn't want to win. And then I can remember sitting on the bench and just feeling totally humiliated and being angry because I didn't have faith in my dad. I didn't have faith in my teammates. I just didn't think that they could win without me. And funny enough, my dad ended up benching me for the rest of that game. And you know what? Our team won the game. And I'll never forget after the game, driving home and having a conversation with my dad and me saying, I can't believe we won, Dad. And him saying, son, you see, you got to have faith in me. And you got to have faith in your teammates, because when you do it, it will help us lead to success. And you know what's interesting about about after that experience? I switched how I played, and I got the team involved, and I became a team player. And our team ended up winning the provincial championship that year. Now, there's a story that has some similarities to that same story that I just spoke of. And it's a story about this king named Nebuchadnezzar. And in the book of Daniel, in chapter 4, with King Nebuchadnezzar, he was given this word that essentially he needed to humble himself for the betterment of himself and his kingdom. And unfortunately, he didn't want to listen. So the Lord had to humble him. And he does. And the king actually gets humiliated. And after getting humiliated, he has this moment and he realizes that he needs to trust and have faith in the Lord, because if he does, eventually everything would work out for his good. And eventually it does. And this is why in verse 37, after he's had this moment, right at the end of chapter 4, King Nebuchadnezzar makes this statement. He says this, "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are right and his ways are just. And those who walk in pride, he is able to humble." Young people, understand that sometimes we have to go through some things so that we can be humbled. And as we go through those situations, we have a choice. Either we can lean on our own understanding and live by what we think will be for our good and be for the good of those around us, or we can have faith in the Lord and trust the process. Trust that the one who created you, the one who created everything else in this world, that he knows what is for our good. That he is working all things out for our good. So what do you choose? Do you choose to live on your own feelings? Or will you have faith in the Lord? Will you have the type of faith where you are going to be like King Nebuchadnezzar and say, "I praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are right and his ways are just"? Or you're going to have to be humbled because you want to live with pride and you want to make the choices for your lives. Here's the thing. If you make the choice to have faith and trust in the Lord in all things and know that he's perfect in all his ways, he will never let you down as long as we have his perspective.